Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Influence to Perform podcast, where we're engaging meaningful conversation and mentorship talks with the top strength coaches, leaders, and professionals in their respective fields. Our guests have been carefully selected to inspire and empower you and those around you. While many strength coaches may be caught up in the following social media trends, some remain dedicated to honoring their skills and achieving true success. These individuals have gone on to create impactful platforms that motivate and educate those who find themselves overwhelmed in the fast paced world of bigger, faster, stronger. In this episode, we have the privilege of speaking with Lee Taft about the importance of adopting a revamped bottoms up approach to training models when it comes to the development of young athletes. Lee shares insights on his certification, training methods, the role of AAU, mentorship, and strategic modeling. These valuable discussions aim to guide parents, athletes, and coaches toward a more effective and fulfilling path. We also delve into other invaluable gems that are highlighted throughout this episode. Check it out. Leave notes in the comments. Thanks. Lee Taft, thank you for joining me on the Influence to Perform podcast. Great to have you again. I know we talked in the past. I love all your content. You're definitely a gem to the field. So I'm gonna give you this time to talk. Please just feel free to introduce yourself. Tell us about your certification, and you can go from there.
Well, thank you. No, I appreciate it, Calvin. Thank you for inviting me. I look forward to it. I had such a great time last time. We chatted it up for a little while, and yeah, it's funny. I basically, I probably just titled myself as a coach. I grew up in a coach's family. My dad, my brothers, my sisters were teachers. Their husbands and/or wives were teachers. I grew up in that environment, and I started. Coaching high school athletics back in the 80s and teaching and then I kind of transitioned into performance like we do and so over the last 30 plus years I've gone between coaching sport and strength and conditioning and specializing kind of in like multi-directional speed and I'm actually currently a head basketball coach at a high school down here in Florida and really enjoying that and that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm enjoying. I have my two daughters are out. They're both graduated from college and
Awesome.
busy in the world. And then my son is a freshman in high school, and I enjoy. He plays basketball for me. He's running track as we
Okay.
talked, and he's
Okay.
and yeah plays flag football and just stays active. So yeah. Yeah. So, what was funny is for many years, I had a lot of coaches asking me if I would do something in basketball related to like a course that they could kind of learn and see in context as to the footwork that I'm talking about that would occur on a basketball court, like in a
Mhm.
game or something
Mhm.
that we would structure during a practice. So, and one thing that I found that if I put it as a certification, what it did is it added value to many coaches who are trying to get a job.
Mhm.
And if they could say to their potential, athletic director or principal, whoever was hiring, that they are certified as a basketball speed specialist,
Mhm.
it added value. I had many people saying, yeah, it helped them a lot with that. So that's why we did it, because the
Okay.
information is information. The
Right.
certification sometimes gives people an upper leg on competition, because
Right.
you can coach basketball, but you can also help speed maybe with the entire athletic
Mhm.
population. That's value.
Right.
So
Right.
basically, it's basketballspeedspecialist.com, and it's a course that we really dive deep into how to teach court speed.
Mhm.
So something you and I might take for granted, like playing defense, moving
Mhm.
laterally, what I tried to do is put language to it that made it really easy in different situations. So let's say there was a pick and roll situation,
Mhm.
and I happen to be guarding the guy setting the screen. Well,
Right.
we would hedge that. But what we tell the players is, be ready. You're going to use a snap shuffle on this. So they
Mhm.
know it's not a big, powerful shuffle trying to cut off a drive or full
Okay.
court. No,
Mhm.
it's just real quick, bam, snap your feet real fast, boom, we cover back. if we're in, let's say, drop coverage, which we're seeing more on a pick and roll coverage, we use what's called a waddle
Mhm.
shuffle, keeps them moving. So it's just
Yeah.
kind of giving the athletes the ability to understand. So I can say it like that and they
Right.
get it. Because you know, it's funny, Kelvin, is you and I would have no problem saying to a kid, "Hey, I want you to use a spin move on that drive." Guy cut you off.
Right.
Just tuck the ball, spin it, go finish it,
Mhm.
or use an inside foot pivot. Offensively, we have no problem giving it names,
Right.
but defensively, we just say, "Hey, go harder, move your
Right.
feet," right? We
Yeah.
rather than giving them a
Yeah.
strategy that
A
they can
strategy.
use. So that's
Mhm.
kind of
Mhm.
why we came up with that.
Right. No, no, that's great. And during my time in the field, and when I hear sports coaches, is even coach myself, in the past, I have not given a strategy to the approach or how to defend a certain movement or a certain aspect of the game. But
Yeah,
now, as I'm developing, and I've read your content, and I hear you talk, and then when I talk to some of my other colleagues, even with my son, I'm like, okay, now you have to develop a strategy to
yeah,
beat that pick and roll or to beat the person from they're trying to go from point A to B. You need to
yeah.
already be there because it's studying the game and just trying to provide more of a strategy, more of a mental approach
That's it.
to the
Yeah,
game. Because where we've seen, and that's going to be my next question, but from the 80s to now, I know we've seen so much change.
yeah.
But how can you encourage or tell the parents, the coaches, and the athletes how this game, basketball, but the sports arena has changed so much where we need to continue to give the athletes strategies to help them succeed more mentally in the game, but also physically. Because at the end of the day, I found out when my son walks away, he's not physically exhausted, he's more mentally exhausted because he might have made a mistake and he's looking he's looking at my face and I'm like, well, we've worked on it, but maybe I can do a better job, or parents or coaches now can do better jobs of developing that strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, that's a unbelievable question because covers a lot of ground as a mentor. We're
Mhm.
all mentors, coaches
Yeah.
and fans and
Mhm.
parents. And so, first of all, when we were talking about the strategies, the game today compared to when I played
Mhm.
and before me is just so much faster. The
Mm.
players are allowed to do more with the ball. It was
Mhm.
funny, Kelvin, because the other night I was talking with my son and he was asking about different offensive moves. He said, "Dad, did you do this?" I said, "Brennan, if we did that, it was a carry. We couldn't
Mhm.
do that. We
Yes.
couldn't get our hand on the side of the ball." I
Right.
remember in high school getting called for a carry when I went around my back one time.
Mm.
I said, "What do you mean?" The ref said, "Well, there's
Yeah.
no way you can do it." And I said, "Yeah, but
Right.
that's a common, you couldn't do it."
Mhm.
Nowadays,
Yes.
they can push it across their body and out
Yeah.
into space. So it
Right.
makes them faster. So
Mhm.
strategies like escaping space,
Mm.
attacking new space.
Mhm.
That's a mental picture for an athlete
Mhm.
to say,
Mhm.
"Oh, okay, get out of this space. I'm guarding
Right.
you here, but when
Mhm.
you start to go by me, I need to escape and attack new space." So
Mhm.
that's a physical action, but it's a
Mhm.
mental picture that
Mhm.
helps athletes
Right, right,
understand.
right,
Because
right.
offensively, we always say, "Hey, attack the hip
Mhm.
or attack the top foot."
Right.
Or attack whatever gaps, big gaps.
Mhm. Mhm.
But defensively we got to do the same thing. So
Mhm.
I think one of the things we can all do as well is, because you brought up a really good point. The one thing I think that happens today, in multiple levels, there's more pressure on kids at multiple levels because, number one, the game is faster.
Mhm.
Players are bigger, stronger, faster than they were. We just, we live in the weight room now. We sprint, we run,
Mhm.
we jump. We didn't do that stuff um,
Yeah.
in an organized way when we were younger. We did
Mhm.
it unorganized. Like we
Right.
played a lot. We went
Mhm.
outside and did stuff. So that puts a little more pressure, a little bit more mental focus and emotional stability on players
Mhm.
because
Mm.
it's tough getting
Yeah.
being left on an island and a guy crosses you up left and right and you're stuck,
Yes.
So you got to be tough. You got to know
Mhm.
it. I think one thing we can do that helps, and I say this to my kids, my daughters both played in
Mhm.
college.
Mhm.
My son's now playing in high school.
Mhm.
And I always tell them a couple things. I say, control what you can control. Don't worry
Mhm.
about what you can't. and compartmentalize it. Yes, for 2 hours, you're a basketball player.
Mhm.
But for the rest of the day and for the rest of your life, you're a human being that
Mhm.
has wants and needs and
Yes.
goals and desires.
Mhm.
And this playing of basketball will be an exciting time for you in your life, but it'll be a blip
Mhm.
on your
Mhm.
radar throughout your
Mhm.
entire life. You're going to
Right.
accomplish so many more things that
Correct.
are different.
Mhm.
And so those are and I have that conversation with the players too. I'm like, listen,
Mhm.
there's times in practice I'm gonna get on you
Right.
because I don't think you're giving me effort. I don't think
Correct.
you're paying attention.
Correct.
But that's my way of
Mhm.
giving you guys strategies to pay attention, to
Mhm.
listen, and to learn. So one of the strategies I think I would impart, like you were talking about, your son comes off the court and he's mentally
Mhm.
fatigued, emotionally,
Mhm.
and I would say, first of all, good for you because that shows me you were engaged. If
Mhm.
you weren't mentally tired, you probably just were floating around and
Right.
not
Yeah.
really paying attention. So that shows he's a young man that's engaged in the
Mhm.
game, and I applaud that. And then it's just about being able to tell him, say, hey, focus on the things that you control. Don't worry about, that turnover. Don't worry
Right.
about, your teammate missing the pass that you threw them when they were open and they missed it. You
Mhm.
can't control that. So you got to let those
Yeah.
things go, and it takes some of the mental pressure. Because I had a player for me, good
Mhm.
player, saw the floor really well, but his teammates didn't always see what he saw.
Right.
So he'd throw a pass to somebody in a small gap, small
Mhm.
window. They're open, but they didn't see the ball coming. It goes out of bounds. Well, it's his turnover. And I
Right.
told him, I said, that just relax. They didn't see it. You're
Mhm.
thinking two steps ahead, and these kids
Mhm.
aren't there yet. So you got
Yeah.
to be able to control. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's our job as parents,
Mhm.
coaches, or just adults around the kids, just to help them understand. Be focused on what you can
Mhm.
control and let the other stuff go. I always like that with Michael Jordan. He always says, I
Mhm.
give myself a few minutes to have a pity party and then it's gone,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you move on.
No. Yeah. No, that's important. I think you said something important. It's like effort equals strategy.
Yeah.
Effort equals strategy. And I just got that I was epiphany for what you said, but that's good. And I think parents and coaches and athletes need to know that. Like, you know, you have your little pity party, but you have to more mentally engage. But nowadays, because of the bigger athletes,
Yeah.
the holdbacks, we talk a lot about AAU,
Yeah.
and that model. And I would love you to touch on that for a little bit. But I
Yeah.
think, where a lot of young athletes that have it mentally that are very analytical, they don't get the opportunities because of the holdbacks or the bigger athletes because the coaches just want to win. Or the
Yeah.
parents have more money and they can fund the program where it takes away the fun but the almost the competitive nature when person does have the athletic ability, but
Yeah.
the other person is out there because they are bigger and they can, you know, I guess, push somebody down or be a bigger body on the field.
That's right.
But I know you see that, and we see that with a lot of AAU, models, and also like with lacrosse, the club lacrosse scene, or the football scene, all the soccer, all the like the travel clubs now
Yeah.
is taking that strategy away because it's more games in a day, in a week, is more money, hotels, everything. So I'll let you touch on that.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. Well, what's so funny is when I first learned of AAU a long time ago, I thought, man, what a great idea to take the top players of a region
Mhm,
and go play the other top players of another region
mhm.
and see how you
Right,
measure up.
right,
That
right.
was a great idea. Way back, Chris Mullen and
Mhm,
Mark Jackson
right.
and
Yeah.
Patrick Ewing in the city might have
Mhm,
got their group together to go play the
mhm.
guys in Philly
Right,
or the guys in DC.
right.
And then what happened, and even at that time, it wasn't about playing 6, 7 games in a row or in a
Mhm,
weekend. It was, let's go. Hey, let's go see who we can compete against.
right.
And then all of a sudden, some moms and dads says, hey, I want my kid to play too. I want my
mm,
kid to be on that all-star team. And next thing you know, these undeveloped players, unqualified players to be playing at that level,
mm,
started getting their own teams. And
mm,
it started to pull from the recreation leagues, which at one point were highly competitive. Like you
mhm.
had the higher level players, you had the
Right,
mid level players, you had the younger, lesser skilled players. They all had a place,
right,
low cost, local. It was fun, really highly competitive. You're still
mhm.
competing against good guys.
Right, right.
And then all of a sudden it became there was no more recreation because everybody wanted to say, "Hey, I'm on an AAU team.
Mm,
I have, a shirt that says I'm on the elite team,"
right.
even though kid can't dribble, shoot, or pass, right? But
Right, right.
they got a team. So what happened, and what's bothered me with that is over the years I've got hundreds, Coach. If you could see the emails, you'd break your heart that I've gotten from families on how it's caused so many like financial issues with their
Mhm,
families because they didn't
mhm,
want to let their kids down, so they sacrificed their future and
mhm,
their retirement to help these kids for 5, 6 years
mhm.
be on like a team that cost thousands of dollars. And the divorce rates that went up because of
Oh,
these,
wow.
there was just a lot of things that went into it. And that's why I say a lot, people don't see the background. They
Mhm.
just hear me talking about it, but
Right.
they're not hearing all the stories that I've heard.
Mhm,
And so what happens is we took a really good idea, this AAU model, and you could call it what you want. It doesn't have to be
mhm.
AAU because
Right,
soccer doesn't call it AAU, and
right,
volleyball has other names, and
right, right.
lacrosse, and baseball stuff. But
Yeah.
it's the travel model where
Mhm,
all of a sudden it went from sports that were virtually free, or
mhm,
low cost to join, to this really high expensive model. Okay, so we got that, but then it went from being 6 weeks to 6 plus months. And now our kids who have great potential in track or tennis or, you know,
mhm.
rugby or football, whatever,
Right.
now they have to choose
Yeah.
because the coach is saying, "Hey, if you don't play AAU, you're not coming out for the team." And
Right.
that breaks my heart because all of a sudden it took something that was really pure and
Mhm.
it turned it into this commercialized enterprise where
Right.
people are making a lot of money off kids who don't really have the skill.
Yeah.
They're recreational players, and I would even say this to the upper echelon. The Cooper Cups, the Bronny
Mhm.
James, all those
Right.
top players.
Right.
I would say, why play 6, 7 games in a weekend and risk just
Yeah.
go compete against your guys for 2 games. You know what I mean? Go
Yeah.
home. Go home
Yeah.
and rest. Let's
Yeah.
have high quality.
Right.
So, there's a lot more to it, as you know. You've heard me you've heard me spout up, but
Yeah.
that kind of gives I'm believe me,
Right.
I'm the biggest fan of high competition.
Right.
Go get it. Like I didn't want to just play low level against
Mhm.
I in New York, we would go from one park. We'd get a group of guys, jump in a car, we'd drive a half hour to the
Mhm.
next park where we knew there was some good runs,
Right.
and we go play.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
what you need to do.
Yeah.
We just turned it
Yeah.
into too much of everything.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. I think that fun model has been removed with coaches saying, come play for me, or parents, or you're not going to get into this high school, or you're not
Yeah.
going to get into this college, and I'm your way or your ticket in. And so I didn't know that much, but I'm starting to see it now with lacrosse, and I'm like, well, how can, other than parents being doctors or lawyers, how can a parent afford 3 to 4 national tournaments a year with, and their tournaments are like $3,000 to $4,000,
I know.
And so I'm learning from my mentors in lacrosse and always reading your great content. It's like my son is not being recruited right now. He's in 8th grade,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So I can wait. I can save that money, wait to high
Yep.
school, his sophomore, junior year, and then that's when everything counts. But then
That's right.
within that framework, it allows him or other to develop themselves, so going into high school, they can be that dominant athlete that have the effort, the mental aspect, and the strategy where the high school coach or the athletic director, whomever, can say, well, we have a well-rounded athlete here.
That's
So
right.
how can you speak to, or we speak to, the high schools now and their development model? Because I was a strength coach at several places, athletic directors, coaches, great individuals, but they did not see the big picture. They wanted their guys bigger, faster, stronger now. And from me and my work, I come from a system of, injury prevention, making sure we're straight, mentality, nutrition. So I think we had a discussion. I'm not going to take a 300-pound guy and put him on a squat, 300-pound, 400-pound squat where he can't move.
That's right.
So I'm going to use building blocks to get him to the level where he can be. And as a testament of that, this same guy who I took my time with, he played center the whole year for his school without any injury,
That's awesome.
which
That's
which is
awesome.
great. Yeah, and so
Yeah.
now I have a lot of the athletes coming back saying, "Hey, Coach King, we want to train with you, etc." Like that, which is great. It does my heart well, but I cannot put my son, or I would not put another athlete in a position where they don't have the right building blocks or framework. So if you can touch a little bit on that, on how you see the high school model going with a lot of the ads, the coaches, the parents, and the athletes.
Yeah, and it's so spot on because we're in this world today of, hey, I want to be the fastest I can be by next week. Hey, coach,
Mhm.
can you do that for me?
Right.
It's like,
Right.
so, I think one of the things I try to do, and even I had spoke earlier about I'm coaching high school
Right.
basketball at
Right.
this smaller school. And
Hmm.
one of the things we do is we implement, my speed philosophy and my
Hmm.
strength and conditioning philosophy, much like you. I'm like, okay, let's develop a really good foundation, just like I would if I'm working on a jump shot. Okay, let's
Correct.
work on the foundation first.
Hmm.
And I always tell the parents and I tell the athletes, there's no rush because
Hmm.
I said, even if we didn't strength train and we didn't do any speed, you guys are still going to be able to play sports because
Right.
we did. When I was young, growing up in the 70s, we didn't have strength training and we didn't have
Hmm.
speed training. We just played, and we
Play.
were all good athletes.
Correct.
Now kids are just bigger, stronger, faster
Hmm.
because they do have
Right.
programs. But I'm like, let's just be patient. Let's take our time and we'll build. And then, the assessments we do will show, hey, we need to ramp it up now. We've
Right.
gone 6 weeks and
Hmm.
we're hitting some milestones. Let's
Right.
raise it up a little bit.
Hmm.
And so you can progressively do that. So, like I grew up in a family of coaches, and my brothers and my dad were athletic directors and
Okay.
principals.
Oh, nice.
So I was around that environment. And so what I would say to someone that kind of calls the shots, whether it's
Hmm.
your athletic director or your principal who's highly involved or
Right.
superintendent, is I would say hire someone like you, to say that someone that's going to come in and protect my kids, protect my program, not just from a health standpoint, but from a liability standpoint,
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
you're going to take not have any cases of negligence because
Right.
you're not
Yeah.
going to put like you said, you're not going to take a young, undeveloped, big
Hmm.
kid under
Hmm.
400 pounds right off.
Right. Yeah.
You're going to develop them. And so if I'm an AD, I'm going to say, listen, I want a program.
Hmm.
Like I want a long term, and that kid comes from middle school that they're learning basics. And when they hit high school, they're ready to go into our 4 year system. So by
Hmm.
the time they're seniors, they're ready for the next level if they choose to go to the next level.
Right.
And I think if we start doing that and we start developing that type of model, and there's a lot of models that would fit in that. It doesn't have to
Right.
be mine or yours. It can be
Mhm,
as long as
mhm,
it's safe. I think what you do is you get a lot of buy-in. Like your
right,
parents will say, "Oh my gosh, my kid has had such a great time, and I'm seeing confidence develop."
mhm,
And then we end up with like you're seeing kids start knocking on your door. Hey, coach, can you help? Can you do what you did to him with
right.
me now?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
really, that's what we want. So that's my thing when it comes to coaches, ads, administrators. Get a program that has a system or a model that we can follow and track for
right,
3, 4, 5, 6 years.
right. Yeah. No, yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. Or allow the program to develop.
Yes.
And that's the thing I'm seeing. A lot of the schools, they have certifications, but you don't have the people like us with that knowledge behind the certification
That's right.
and everything
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. And I think your certification is great because it gives everybody a strategy. You know, a lot of the certifications, they don't have a strategy. It says X, Y, Z. This is the question, everything
Yeah.
like this. But I think a lot of the seasoned strength coaches, they have a strategy to their or a method to their, I like to say, madness because it
Yeah.
works. It
That's right.
works. And now we have the strength coaches that, like you said, everybody want to get bigger, faster, stronger. But I talk to other strength coaches and some of my mentors, and they say now we're seeing, and like you see yourself, kids that are injured.
Yeah.
They kids that are playing injured. So you have kids playing all these games. They go to hockey, soccer, spend all this money, and they're playing injured. So I take my son and I advocate for others to a stretch therapist, a massage therapist,
Yeah.
because as his body grows, he needs that. And I would encourage all coaches, strength coaches, parents, if you can, afford it, to do that because a lot of the kids are playing very stiff. They're playing with injuries. They're playing very sore. So I know
Yeah.
that we are very short on time and everything has been great, but can you give us some lessons learned, about 4 lessons learned, and how we can move forward as coaches, athletes, parents, from your perspective?
Yeah. Oh, I would love to. And this has been great. Gosh, that went fast. Anytime I have a good conversation with another coach
Exactly.
like that, it's over.
Exactly. Yes.
um, but yeah, I this is probably one thing I learned a lot over my several decades of being involved in athletics and then as a coach and stuff is we have to accept that learning is messy and it's ugly at times, and we have to accept that's actually a huge part of learning,
Mm,
and mistakes are critical. So whether you're teaching someone in the weight room how to do a goblet squat and they're struggling with the technique a little bit, that's their brain getting an
mm,
opportunity to figure it out. It's
mm.
no different than me telling my kids how to do a left-handed extended layup,
Correct.
and it's coming off their hand wrong
Mhm.
and they're
Yeah.
airballing it, and my comment is just keep going. You
Mhm.
know how to do it. Your body just hasn't felt it yet.
Mm.
So I think as coaches, as parents, when you see your kids, whether you're athletes or your sons or your daughters making mistakes, be great listeners and let them tell you. If you ask them, say, "Hey, I noticed you struggled on this one play. What do you think happened?"
Mm.
Let them tell you and say, that's okay. That's how you learn. Your body will get it. By the next game, you'll be a little bit better. And then by the
Mm.
end of the season, you'll be much better. So even though this isn't like a technical strategy to help a coach teach a kid how to run better, it's probably the most important lesson I learned because when I was younger, I tried to teach everything all the time. Kid would make a mistake and I'd break them down. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's just let them go, they'll figure it out and guide them with it. It's like riding a bike. You and
Right.
I can't teach our kids how to
Right.
ride a bike. They
Right.
have to figure the balance out. And once
Right.
they hit a mailbox once or twice, they'll
Right.
figure out they
Right.
better turn they better
Right.
turn the wheel a little
Right.
bit.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. And that helps me too because then I can say to all my athletes, instead of saying what they did wrong, I can say your brain is processing, you'll get the next time. Try these different movements, etc., like that. And then whether we're in the weight room or on the court or the field, it will help me, and I'm sure it will help parents, coaches, because we don't think like that. Because
That's right.
we think you put in the work in the weight room, you studied this, etc., but they're still young athletes. The body is developing.
That's
But
right.
no, I think this talk has been great. But go ahead.
Can I say one more thing? Do I have a second? Yeah.
Mhm.
So one of the strategies I learned a long time ago, and I actually teach this in my courses a lot, is to use summary feedback.
Mhm.
So, coach, if you were an athlete of mine and you just did a repetition of something, maybe it was a vertical jump or something,
Mhm.
and I said to you, "So, Calvin, how did that feel?"
Mhm.
So I'm letting you tell me, and then if
Right.
you said to me, "I felt off balance," and I saw that you were off balance, I know we're both on the same path. But
Right.
if I
Right.
saw you were off balance and you said, "Oh, I think I nailed it," then I'm thinking, "Okay, I got more teaching to do because he was off balance and he's not
Right.
feeling it." So
Right.
summary feedback is a really quick way to circumvent the learning path and get to the end quicker.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I think video analysis also
Yes,
works in conjunction with some, and
that's
that,
huge.
and we can go another hour with that. But
Yes.
but no, 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 that is great. And for everyone listening, I think that's the key takeaway. Two key takeaways: summary feedback and effort equals strategy, along with all the other gems outlined in this discussion. So again, Lee, thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
the time. And again, please let others know where they can find you.
Well, if you go to leetaft.com, that's kind of our hub. You can always find me there, but I'm really active on social media. I try to communicate with a lot of coaches. So anything at Lee Taft, you'll pretty much find me on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever one you want to choose there. So yeah, no, I appreciate it, Calvin. You're great. I love what you're doing. I love our conversations, and I'm always excited to hear how your son's doing, and I'm excited to see the future. So thank you.
Awesome, awesome, and vice versa. We might have to do a part two.
Yeah, let's do
uh,
it.
all right, well, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, coach.
All righty.